Regardless of this being the college football playoff era, it's the Rose Bowl, and it's still special. It's still different. It's still unique, and it's still Big Ten, Pac-12. We got Matt Bell's on the line from Bucky's Fifth Quarter. It's the Wisconsin platform for SB Nation. And, of course, the Badgers taking on the Oregon Ducks in the Rose Bowl on New Year's Day, as it should be. Matt, how you doing today?
Doing great. Looking forward to a really good game tomorrow.
Yeah, it should be. It should be. We got two top 8 teams in the country. We've got a Big Ten, Pac-12 matchup, and of course the college football playoff situation sometimes muddies up the Rose Bowl and gets us away from tradition, as it should be. But we've got Wisconsin, of course, with 3 losses, 2 to Ohio State, winners of the Big Ten West again. What are the thoughts regarding the Badger fan base and the players, and in regards to a Rose Bowl is obviously the destination intended for any team that wins the Big Ten if they can't get to the playoff. But in regards to the fan base's expectations for this season following a 7-5 campaign, it's got to feel pretty good.
Yeah, I think most fan bases that are realistic coming into this season kind of pictured somewhere in the 8-4, 9-3 range. If things fell the right way, 10-2, and I think it turned out really nicely for the Badgers. I think anytime you can get to the Rose Bowl, you can get to a premier bowl game like that, it's going to go ahead and really help boost the morale for the team, the fan base. And it can really, if you get a bowl win, it always propels you really nicely to the following season as well, where they return a lot of key playmakers.
It's just a mark of stability with the program ever since Barry Alvarez established it as a national power, and the transition from Alvarez to Bielema to Anderson and now to Paul Christ in regards to the identity has not changed. So the concepts of the spread offense and the spacing of the wide receivers and all that and up tempo, that certainly has been installed in small spurts, but this is all about an NFL offensive line that wants to impose its will with one of the best running backs in the nation and then play action off of that with Jack Cohn.
Yeah, no doubt. As a 30-year-old, ever since Barry Alvarez kind of burst onto the scene, it's been that same blueprint all through it. And Wisconsin has done a really good job of understanding the type of talent that they can bring in, understanding that offensive linemen kind of grow on trees in the state of Wisconsin compared to a lot of other places around the country. But then necessarily the skill talent, you have to go outside of your own footprint in order to recruit those guys. So Wisconsin has really done a nice job of fitting the system to the type of players and type of talent that they can bring in.
Just development of quarterbacks overall has led to offensive efficiency going through the roof. So to see Jack Cohn completing, I think, about 72% of his passes is what would have been like unheard of, certainly 10 or 15 years ago. But even in this day and age, that is a high percentage. So obviously he's getting the job done. He is supported by arguably the best running game in college football, but certainly he has pulled through.
Yeah, the way he's elevated his game has really helped the offense in a lot of ways. Last year, the quarterback play was just not good enough. There was too many turnovers, whether it be interceptions or fumbles. A lot of fumbles actually happened from Jack Cohn last year in the limited time that he played. This year, he's really cleaned that up nicely, throwing for almost 200 yards a game, 70% like you acknowledged, and then 17 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions. I think any realistic fan coming into the season would have seen that stat line and jumped on it immediately, because Jack Cohn has played exceptionally well for what a lot of fans kind of thought was going to be a huge quarterback competition between him and Graham Mertz.
And there have certainly been standout wide receiver play at Wisconsin in terms of individual play, and then, of course, at the tight end position. But would you say that this is the most explosive, dynamic wide receiving core going 3 to 4 deep than what we've seen at Wisconsin?
Yeah, especially in recent history. I think the last time that Wisconsin had as many weapons that they do was the last time that they actually took on Oregon in the Rose Bowl, when they had Nick Toon and Jared Abbrederis and some good tight end play. But I think Quintez Cephas, his reemergence onto the scene and coming back after, a pretty tumultuous past 2 seasons, to come out and have over 800 yards, 6 touchdowns has been a revelation for this offense in a lot of ways. And I think he might be the most important and impactful player on the offense in a lot of ways because of his talent and how he can kind of create separation and catch the ball away from his body.
I've seen Wisconsin play probably 6 or 7 times this year. Of course, the domination of Michigan was eye-opening at that point in the season. the games against Ohio State. It was only a 10-7 game in the third quarter before their backs broke in Columbus, but that's happened to everybody else against the Buckeyes. And of course, the Big Ten championship game, they played a stellar first half before it got away from them. But the way I saw it in the Big Ten championship game, that was just Ohio State athleticism taking over. It wasn't like Wisconsin blew the game. They didn't throw interceptions, didn't fumble, didn't blow coverages. They were still tackling, still doing all the right things. It was just maybe the premier team in the country taking over that game. So it's been a great season. The one aberration, obviously, against Illinois. Let's talk about the defense. Is this pretty typical of what we see of Wisconsin, the great front seven? And, statistically, it's about what we typically see out of Wisconsin every year. They're one of the top 10 units in the nation.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty consistent since Jim Leonard, Justin Wilcox before him, Dave Aranda. Ever since they've instilled the 3-4 defense, Wisconsin has done a really nice job. Last season, a big reason for their faltering down to a lower 8-5 record was because of the defense. The defense gave up way too many big plays. They weren't able to kind of bend, not break in a lot of times. And this year, it kind of got back to being able to get after the quarterback. Last season, they really struggled at being able to get sacks. This season, they're one of the top sack teams in the country. I think they're fifth with almost 4 a game. So I think that was been a big thing. I think Chris Orr and Zach Bond have done a really nice job. Guys who are in their last season and have really taken advantage of the extra reps that they've gotten this season after a couple NFL guys left before them.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, breaking down the Badgers as Wisconsin prepares for Oregon at the Rose Bowl, Pac-12 and Big Ten, as it should be. We got Matt Bells on the line from Bucky's Fifth Quarter, the Wisconsin platform on SB Nation. So, of course, bowl time is a time in which many of us watch teams that we haven't seen before because we're focused on our particular team. For those people watching Wisconsin for the first time, or maybe they saw a couple games here and there, who are some guys that stand out besides the name brands that we know of, Jonathan Taylor, Jack Cohn, and so forth on both sides of the football, that you're excited to see cap off 2019 and maybe even as a precursor to 2020?
Yeah, I mean, Wisconsin, I talked a little bit about Quintez Cephas on the offense. Another big target for the Badgers is Jake Ferguson. He is a very talented tight end, a grandson of Barry Alvarez. If you've ever watched a Badger game, that usually gets brought up every single time. But he's second in the team in receptions and yards. He's kind of a security blanket of sorts. He's not going to wow you with breakaway speed or anything like that, but he is very athletic, really good hands. And then on the defense, inside linebacker next to Chris Orr is actually Jack Sanborn, really talented inside linebacker. He's only a true sophomore. He's tied with the team lead with 72 tackles, has 5.5 sacks and a couple interceptions. So he's been a nice, talented player for this team. And his dad actually played at Oregon. So it's kind of a bittersweet thing for him because his dad has recently passed away.
Talking Oregon, Wisconsin, Rose Bowl. Matt Bell's on the line from SB Nation's Bucky's Fifth Quarter, Wisconsin. As you look at Oregon, obviously everyone knows about Justin Herbert and his projection to the NFL draft. What may surprise some people is that Oregon's known for flash and dash, spacing people out, the quick players on the outside, trying to use their quickness and speed. But Mario Cristobal's developed a different program there at Oregon. They certainly still have to capitalize on that, but they've built a stellar offensive line, and they're actually a much more physical team than what they typically bring as a stereotype of Oregon football.
Yeah, no doubt. They've got 3 really talented running backs, all of which have gotten over 85 carries on the season. CJ Verdell is a really talented running back. And I think Mario Cristobal is if you look at what he's doing at Oregon, it kind of mirrors what Wisconsin does in a lot of ways with building with the offensive line. He was a former offensive line coach, so it makes a lot of sense that he would try to build his program that way. But you got to be impressed with the recruiting hauls that they've had these past couple seasons, and it's really starting to pay dividends for them.
So if Wisconsin wins this game, of course, they finish with 11 wins. They're the Rose Bowl champion. They probably clear somewhere close to the top 5 in the nation. How important is this game for the Badgers? And I'll also put some recent Rose Bowl results into play, losing the last 3 trips out there.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, is to try to get that monkey off your back. Wisconsin has had a lot of success these past 30 seasons, really getting to the Rose Bowl, getting into high leverage bowl games. They've won their last 5 bowl games, hoping to make it 6. It's always a huge stepping stone for the following season. It gives you some positive momentum. But then you look at it as well, Wisconsin has struggled at times to win the big game. And this is obviously a very big game, a top 10 matchup against a team that really is going to bring a lot of athleticism, but also speed and also strength. I think this is probably going to be the second most impressive team that the Badgers are going to take on outside of Ohio State. And I think it's going to be a really, really good matchup for both teams, because they're both, if you look at the statistics, I mean, they're pretty evenly matched in a lot of ways as this one comes up.
Vegas has made Wisconsin a 3-point favorite. The Ducks and the Badgers at the customary 5 o'clock Eastern time position on New Year's Day for the Rose Bowl. It should be a great one. It's outside the playoffs, the number one game that I want to see, certainly during this bowl season. We got Matt Bells on the line from Bucky's Fifth Quarter on SB Nation. We invite you and encourage you to head on over there for more coverage on Wisconsin athletics. Matt, we appreciate you stopping by.
Yep, loved having me on. Thanks.